List the top 10 things that made you fall in love with your lover.
Ooh, it's not just the early things.
It's the everyday mundane things that makes you fall in love over and over again. If you keep going back to the beginning, it's not gonna last.
Yeah.
The other day I was like, I kind of want to go live in Japan and see how it would be. And you're like, yeah, sure, Japan would be fun. And not just like traveling, but just your adventure spirit is like, yeah, it's one of the things that made me fall in love with you and makes me fall in love with you over and over again.
Aww. My number 9 is your natural embodiment of the Serenity Prayer.
Okay, you have to explain that.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Interracial Couple Podcast.
Where it's not all black and white. My name is Cera, I'm black.
I'm Matthew, I'm white. And this week we are now getting into the new year already. We are into January and we have begun something really special that we're really excited about. We have started our
Lover's Journal journaling.
And I know we've mentioned this before on last week's podcast. This is a journal that has prompts for 52 weeks with monthly challenges each month, beautiful quotes. And in fact, the first quote here is, "We love, that is why life is full of so many wonderful gifts." A beautiful quote by Rumi to kick us off. And this journal is something that we've developed through work that we've been doing together already as a couple, but we just kind of like really clarified, put it into a book form, really worked with it to get it just right. And so this week, we just started doing the Lover's Journal as just a couple doing it.
I know. I was so excited when I sat here a couple minutes ago and I was filling in my journal. And I was like, it actually took me deeper to remember those things, as to why I am with you and I choose to be with you every single day.
We did something with the journal, which is that all of the prompts and the questions, particularly at the beginning, are the fun ones. They're a little bit easy, but I'm not going to give it away just yet, but we have a little section for other thoughts, ideas, and realizations. And doing this really kind of surprised me in many ways, that as I was writing through this, just kind of what it brought up in me, the feelings that it brought up. I knew, I guess, in some ways, but it still just was a pleasant surprise just how wonderful it was to go through this.
Me too. And I'm excited to share on air.
So we are going to share, and we'll be doing this regularly, not all the time, but we'll be sharing our journaling process. My guess is at some point, some of these could bring some challenges, some questions. There might be some things that come up that are uncomfortable. Today, none of that at all. It was all love, excitement.
And for those things that are uncomfortable to share on air, it's like we won't share them until we're comfortable.
Until we're ready.
Yeah, until we're ready. So we will share with you what we want to share.
Yeah.
That's my rule on like sharing things publicly. It's like I will share what I feel comfortable sharing, and what I don't feel comfortable sharing, that is also okay.
Right. Because sometimes there's a lot of the processing, and I think we've talked about this before too, which is that when at the point where you get comfortable sharing, that means you've actually processed it to where there's almost some kind of mastery, where you've overcome something that you've been struggling with it. While you're in the struggle, there's sometimes a little bit of extra sort of shame, or just not even shame. Sometimes like, I just don't know where I'm standing. How can I share with you what's going on if I have no idea really what's going on with me? Yeah.
So do you want to read this week's prompt?
Week 1 prompt, go ahead. What is our week 1 prompt?
List the top 10 things that made you fall in love with your lover.
Ooh.
So I have to confess something. When we started, I was like, oh my God, 10? Why not 3?
So there's only 3 things, so that's just how many there are.
I was like,
so good.
I was like, wait. I was like, I was I wrote this journal. Why didn't I just say 3? Because 10 felt like it was a lot, you know?
And it made it, you have to think.
Yeah, you do.
And we joked about this when we first did it, how many we're going to do, 3, 6, 10, 7. And one of the things that I got hung up with when I first started doing it was I went back to the moment that I knew I was interested in you. And so to me, it was what made me fall in love was as though it was this moment or the thing that happened before I really got to know you.
Oh, because we always think like it's a moment of like the initial time when we began our relationship, but mostly it's actually not.
Yeah.
It's the everyday mundane things that makes you fall in love over and over again. If you keep going back to the beginning, it's not going to last.
Yeah. Well, because those things are also there's easy stuff, you know. I'm going to go ahead and give away my number 2, which was a little bit of a joke, but also kind of true. It took me back to the first time we actually went out. And you dressed very nicely. And we've told the story a few times where you were wearing stockings. They were kind of like fishnet-y, where they had sort of like some kind of patterns.
Yeah, that was my style a couple of years ago. I would wear dresses and boots and stockings.
And they were
tights.
Dresses, but they were on the shorter side.
They were pretty short.
And oh my God, your legs were amazing. And you, and it was kind of this moment where I didn't know. I mean, we were having a great conversation. I was loving it. And then you came in, you went to the bathroom. When you came in, you sat back down. We were sitting at this tight bar, and you kind of swung back on the bar stool, and your knees went right in between my knees. And I looked down, and I was like, wow, those are beautiful legs. But obviously, that's not that was like this moment. But while I still love your legs, in some ways, that's kind of moved down the list. But I bring that up because at some point I will be 90 years old and I will still love you, and your legs probably won't be what they are today.
No, they'll have a lot of wrinkles.
They will. And that's, so like what made me fall in love, maybe also when I'm 90, the things may be very different.
Maybe not so much wrinkle, but like floppy skin.
Yeah.
And wrinkles.
Yeah, and some wrinkles. So that was the challenge when I first started doing, when I got first thought of that, and I was kind of going through some of these prompts was, oh, it's not just that moment, because I kept just going back to that first night or the first weekend or the first kiss, kind of these moments where it's like, oh, that's happening. And even now as I was writing today, I think if I went back and did this again, and I think we have a similar prompt again later, it shifts a bit, but I think that when I do, it's going to come back to, oh, it's not just the early things. It's like, what is something that you did yesterday? And I will say, however, that there are a couple ones I got to like 9 or 10 where that are actually more recent, that are actually from this week, things that I was like, oh, this is why I love you. Not necessarily what made me fall in love, but this is one of the things that makes me fall in love with you again every morning when I wake up.
Oh, do you want to hear mine?
I do.
My first one?
The person who struggled halfway through, please. I'm like, 4. Can I just stop at 4?
It was funny. I was stuck at 4. And then once I got to 5, it was really easy.
Okay.
So one of the reasons I actually, like you, my first one, I did go back to when we first met. And it was how present you are as a human being. And I just remember talking to you. I think the first week, and maybe it's the 3rd day, I don't know, when I came over, and we talked all night. And you listened, and like you were not on your phone. You were just present. Like you listened to my story, like you really cared. And I was like, wow, I haven't had that much. I haven't seen someone who's so present. And you just look at me, not ask so many questions, but just you listen to me talk for hours, and it was so nice. And we talked. We were in. Do you remember that?
I do.
In the car.
Yeah, and at one point, I think this was a couple of days. Maybe I forget if it was that day or the next time we hung out, when you told me something about yourself, and then you said, "And don't ask me any questions about it." And so I just kind of had to live with that and say, you know what, rather than wondering or whatever, or having a bunch of questions, I can really just be in the moment and be present for what you can bring right now. So in some ways, that was a kind of a gift that you gave me that I could have reacted and been like, what does she not want to tell me? And instead it was, anything you don't tell me is the past, because right now we're in this moment together. So I do remember that.
Yeah. So that was my first one, how present you were and how present you continue to be.
There you go. All right,
So,
gentlemen, if you want a woman as lovely as mine, presence. There's the trick. And if you have a woman as lovely as mine and you want to keep her, presence.
Keep being present. So what's your second one?
So
you read your second one.
No,
so
my
your
first one
one
was Cera's ease of joking and teasing that was all fun and no stank. You know, like that first time we went out, you poked fun at me twice in ways that could have been really stinging, but they were so just innocent and truly fun, and it was a critique almost in some ways. It could have been a critique, but without any need for any certain outcome. Granted, it wasn't a date. We were just hanging out. So it made it easier, but you didn't try to impress me. And so therefore you could be really at ease and make a joke that in a way that just was not painful at all. It was just really funny with so much ease. I loved it.
Oh.
That was my first.
Okay. So I'm going to say my second one.
Okay.
Cooking.
Oh.
Dude, you won me over.
I did.
With food.
I did. I'm not going to lie. The first night I had you over, I was like, I am making something that's going to get me into her pants. And I did.
My God, you just did not say that.
That's not exactly true, but there's a little bit of truth.
Let me just remind you. When I came over for that dinner, I was on my period and I was high. For someone who doesn't smoke weed, I always say, like, I showed up to your house for first date, high and on my period.
Yeah.
Because someone told me that if I smoke weed, it was going to help with my period pain, but they didn't remind me about how high I was going to. And so I always say that because I was like, you could have judged me so much because I actually do not smoke weed. I've smoked weed 5 times in my adult life, but that was one of them. And so you could just have been like, oh, she just is high all the time, you know?
So a little quick pointer there too is I did want to impress you, but I was playing the long game. It wasn't the short game. So you could show up high on your period and I was still making you a great dinner because it was like putting pennies in the piggy bank. But it was more like putting $100 bill in the piggy bank.
Yeah, that won me over. Right. Do you want to tell our audience what you made? What you cooked?
Oh, it was a chicken breast. I did not chicken, sorry. It was a duck breast with a Bing cherry glaze on, I forget if I did a wild rice or if maybe it's on mashed potatoes, with green beans and a salad with goat cheese, apple, and candied walnuts or pecans.
If you do that again, you know.
Ooh, I know the key. All right. My number 2, I already gave away.
What's your number 3?
Your ambition. Yeah. Which I'm going to temper that in some later ones, but your ambition of being really clear and being willing to work really hard for what's important to you. That's my number 3. Oh.
And my number 3 is your adventure spirit.
Like the kind of person that's like, oh, you want me to move to Kenya with you? Sure.
Literally, that's what I wrote. Like, I was like, dude, you want to move to Kenya with me? And you're like, yeah, sure.
Nice.
And the other day I was like, I kind of want to go live in Japan and see how it would be. And you're like, yeah, sure. Japan would be fun. And not just like traveling, but you have your willingness. Okay, I'm giving another one away, so I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
But just your adventure spirit is like, yeah, it's one of the things that made me fall in love with you and makes me fall in love with you over and over again.
Oh, All right.
All right.
So
What's your next
there you
one?
go, guys. There's another, the adventures. Your care and compassion for people. It is like so sexy. Oh my God. And it plays into your, into your ambition and everything. It's so much not about like what's in it for me, but it's like how can I really be of service? And that is, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's sexier than your legs.
Oh. Okay, I have nothing to say to that.